today we have with us the BMW 5 Series, the trustworthy family daily driver. It is an absolutely wonderful car. It's a pleasure to drive and a lot of fun and super dependable. Let's get into it. The car is extremely smooth to drive, as BMWs are known to be. The suspension is really nice. It's a pretty old car, but it still drives fresh. The car has a 6-cylinder engine which packs a pretty sporty punch to it. It's very comfortable to drive, but when you hit the accelerator, it also has a great punch. It's pretty nice. It packs a good 200 plus horsepower. It's pretty nice to drive. It's got an 8-speed gearbox which shifts extremely smoothly. You can barely feel the transmissions, but it doesn't have paddle shift in the true sense of the term. It has some sort of manual mode where you can put it into it's a manual and sport mode combined, where you can upshift manually and downshift if needed, but most of the time the downshift is automatic. Regardless, it's just incredibly smooth to drive, as I've said before. So the 5 Series is more of a mid-range luxurious car, right? It's not the starting at the base at the 3 Series, and it's not the highest end with the 7 Series and so on. It's right there in the center for those kind of people who want to get a luxury car, who have the money to spend on it, but don't want to spend just way too much. It's just it falls in the perfect mid-range category, and with a price starting at I think 49 lakhs, I think it does that very well for the Indian market. So it comes with the usual BMW iDrive system. I think it's of course nothing compared to the newer models which have all the fancy gimmicks and whatnot, but even though it's so old, it packs the basic necessities, something that Audi and Mercedes' infotainments really lack. The system is super intuitive and extremely simple to use. It connects to devices seamlessly, automatically, and the workflow is amazing. It's this ecosystem that really works on a functional basis. It's not the gimmicks at the end of the day. Which is why, being 6 years old, this car packs tech which is much more used and much more functional than a lot of newer cars these days. So the interiors are again very well and classily built all over. It's mostly super luxurious, but at some points they have replaced the leather with some cheap plastic. Then again, there are some pretty irrelevant spots which you won't really come across, so it doesn't affect the driving experience at all. Now if you're wondering how the interiors affect the driving experience, your comfort is a very big part of the driving experience, and that is something that makes these cars what they are, in a very large sense of it. Ground clearance in this car is pretty low, as most BMWs obviously are. This too does not come off too high. I'm not too sure the exact number. Very often you find on larger speed breakers, the car's bottom does hit, and we all know how terrible of a feeling that is. The car's a little bit wider than I thought. In tighter roads and lanes, it's a little stressful for someone like me driving a car like this. Because, well, I'm not used to it, and it's just scary, man. I can't nick the car. But the driving experience is utterly pleasurable. I definitely see why so many people turn to this as a daily driver, as a chauffeur-driven car. It doubles as both very effortlessly. You can very simply, if you're getting it chauffeur-driven, it looks classy enough. It doesn't look like a chauffeur driving an extremely small car. Even if you're driving itself, it's sporty enough at the same time, which I think is a very important aspect of many cars. Because very often when you have a chauffeur, and especially in this line, so many cars do end up being driven by chauffeurs. It's very important for the car to look the part, which is why for the longest time the E-Class was a lot better in space than this. But then again, in my opinion, the E-Class is better off as a chauffeur-driven car than self. As again with the S-Class. The S-Class is much more of a chauffeur-driven car because of the luxuries that they've put at the back are just so over the top. And that's why as a self-driven car, the S-Class just, it feels like you're a chauffeur. The dashboard is pretty well decked up here. Even though it's so old, it's got a really nice blend of digital and physical dials, which makes the experience really authentic, and it's quite responsive at the same time. Coming to safety, BMWs are absolutely amazing when it comes to safety. The car, I think, once if a tire punctures, you can still drive, if I'm not mistaken, like 5 or 10 kilometers without any issues whatsoever. There is a sufficient amount of Okay, so since the car is just so smooth and pleasurable, you don't normally hear the engine at all. Like, very often you'll find that if you leave the engine on and get out, you won't even realize because it's that silent. But if some irritating you from the back and honking consistently, hit the accelerator hard enough and it takes off with a beautiful sound. So the engine's obviously been lifted off of the sporty 3 Series. But to give it a more luxurious feel, it's been detuned to be more economic and efficient in its running. Nice turning radius for its size, and a really nice parking system as well, which is quite efficient for not having a camera as well. Completely makes up for it. Although BMWs are a little uptight and you can't install third-party cameras. So back then I don't think there were cameras available, but right now I'm pretty sure you'll have to pay quite a premium for it if it isn't built into the default. Aside from that, the car we just brought it back to park, and I don't know what else to say other than the fact that it was an extremely pleasurable experience. But let's take a look at some of the exteriors of the car. So getting out is pretty simple, but since I'm a little tall, the car's low ground clearance makes it a little hard. Aside from that, the doors are really light, they open really simply, and once you're in, the seats are extremely comfortable. There was some really great lumbar support, the really nice leather. It's been 6 years and the seats are not worn out half as much as you think. They're still really tightly maintained. A lot of seats of this sort usually end up getting loose, but here it's really maintained its ground really well. Aside from that, the looks are extremely sharp. It's got these really nice white metal finishes on the handles. The lines give this really good reflection, which hits it with a really nice sporty look, as it does with a very typical BMW front. But overall, it's a great daily driver, super dependable, great family car, great chauffeur-driven car. Works for almost anything, and I think overall makes for a really great entry to start with the BMW. But I think that's about it for today, guys. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel. We're dropping cool new videos every week. And yeah, I'm Vedant signing off.